Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So on the last video, we were working on our tornado Dodge Dually. Yes, this is a truck that was actually hit by an Oklahoma tornado. And on the last video, we was replacing the bed and then getting to work on the replacement bed because it did come from a salvage yard and it needed a few things done to it. It had a little bit of damage, but it was way better than the bed we were replacing. This is a pretty big job. I thought maybe I would bring you guys along for it. I got some help on this one. This is my boy, my oldest boy, Matthew, and I want to say I appreciate all the help, guy. Lots of heavy lifting on this one, and he even did some of the camera work, so much appreciated. Getting kind of creative here. We got this big C-clamp here. It's a pulley clamped on there, and he's going to kind of work that around. We're going to kind of get the twist out of that a little bit. Then maybe we get in there with a block of wood and a big hammer, get in behind this, and knock that up to where we can work it a little bit. There you go. Yeah, get it closer to that edge there and start working that up a little bit and get it to where we can get a 2x4 or something in behind there. I think I can work that out just fine. I like your technique with the bolt. It's pretty nice. This clamp is pretty cool. Look at that. Pretty nice. This isn't exactly what it's made for, but it seems to be working out pretty good for it.
Yeah.
Oh, now you did it. Not the guide coat. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I see it. It's coming up right there. Getting close though, man. It's looking so much better already.
Yeah. I like that.
Well, all right, there is our metal work. I think we got it close enough. We'll hit it up with a little bit of filler. We'll prime it in and move on. Well, alrighty, so there it is after a nice even coat of filler. We got a little masking tape on there. We're gonna hit it with a couple coats of primer. We're gonna go in for the night. We're gonna let that set up and we'll come out here in the morning and block it all out and shoot it. What do you think, man? You ready?
Yes, good idea.
All right, let's get it. Some really nice thick primer. I'll show it to you guys in just a minute. Very little to no overspray. Let's put it that way. It's so thick. Really good stuff. Easy to sand. I'm loving this stuff. I've already used it on a couple of projects, and it seems to work great.
Yeah, I like it. It's good.
You like it?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We're moving right along. We actually got sealer on it, and we're masked up, ready to paint. You can see where we only sealed the areas that had bodywork. That's kind of the way it goes. The rest of it just gets Scotch-Brighted down with some red Scotch-Brite. That's all it needed. It didn't have any scratches or gouges or anything that needed to be feathered back. So typically that's all we got to do. Check this spot out here. That was the worst of it. You guys remember how caved in that was? That turned out really nice. I'm actually kind of proud of us on that. That was the worst of it. I was wondering how well it would turn out, or if it turned out well at all, and looky there, man, it looks like brand new. We've got this side over here is the same way. We had some areas here that had to have some sealer put on it, and there it is. We're good to go now. We even went through and sealed the bottom side of the hood, so we are ready to go. Let's mix some paint. And once we got it mixed up good, I'm gonna go ahead and pour it through a strainer. These things are free. Most paint shops where you buy this paint and the materials and everything, they give this stuff away for free, so get you some. It's just a last line of defense. Keep her from spitting something out of the gun onto your paint surface or clogging your gun even. Now that that's in there, we're going to click the lid on. These liners that I'm using, you could get these at Harbor Freight. They're actually pretty cheap. You see how it's got a liner that actually goes down into the cup? Kind of fancy, but cheap still. We put the collar on there and we're good to go. All right, so before we load that onto our gun, we're going to want to take a tack cloth. This is just a sticky cloth, in case you guys have never seen it. And most people don't know that you kind of need to take these things and just kind of unravel them, right? And then let them sit out for a few minutes. This will help it become just slightly less sticky, because when they come out of the package all folded up, they're a little bit too sticky. And if you're not careful, you'll end up with that sticky residue on the surface of what you're going to paint, and you don't want that. The whole point of a tack cloth is to remove things from the surface, not to add more to it. So we will take that and set it somewhere and let it sit for just a few minutes while we check our tape and make sure everything's good. Yeah, I'll just put it right there for a few minutes, and then we're going to go through here and check and make sure all of our tape is still good. You might be asking, why did we tape that shut? What's the big deal? Why did we tape these shut? The tail lights, what's the big deal, man? What does it matter if we get overspray in there? It's not always about overspray. Sometimes it's about dirt. When you come through here and you're spraying this area, you're going to blow air pressure in there, obviously, and dirt can come back out and get into your surface, and you don't want that. You can see where we've actually taped the entire bed shut, because there's so much dirt and crap hiding in there. Even though we blew it out with the air compressor, it's there, and you're going to be in here, you're going to be shooting down these bed rails, blowing that air right into where that whole cavity full of dust, and it's just going to go out into everything, and you don't want that. Well, all right, so our tack cloth has set for a little while, and I'm just going to kind of start up here on these upper surfaces. Get in here where all, you know, dirt can hide around all these little edges, so you just want to kind of get in there and just run this across. Don't get crazy. Don't sit and try to scrub the surface with this cloth, because it is sticky and it will get that sticky residue onto the surface like we mentioned a minute ago, and you definitely don't want that. It won't look good if you paint over that by mistake. Now, something I was always told is you want to kind of go slow. You don't want to get too crazy. I've heard that these can actually create static electricity, which will actually make more dust stick to the surface. You don't want that, right? So I just kind of go slow. I don't want to stir up anything. I'm trying to get rid of dirt, not add more, right? You want to take your rag and kind of flip it around here and there as you go. All right, so we're going to click this onto the old gun. Make sure the collar's nice and tight. Give it a little shake. I think we're ready to go. You'll fog it on there kind of lightly at first. You lessen the chance of getting overspray. This side's more. So don't go super heavy on the first coat. Got our first coat of color on. I like to go really lightly on the first coat to ensure that we don't get fish eyes. If you just hammer it right off the start, you could end up with fish eyes. You don't want that. I wanted to show y'all right here. See how we got a piece of trash in there? Can y'all see that? It's pretty tall, just chilling out right there. I'm just gonna take my tack cloth. Look at that, just rub it right off of there. Super easy. That's what happens when you actually let it dry between coats, you could go back and you can actually re-tack it. Just make sure that it is dry, because the last thing you want is to put this on here and have it stick. That'd be the worst. So anyway, I've gone over the whole thing. If there's anything too bad on it, now's the time to fix it. You can actually go through and nib dirt out of it with a piece of sandpaper and put on your next coat after that. So I've let this sit for about 30 minutes now, and it's dry to the touch. You can touch it now, no problem. It's not sticky or anything. I'm going through it with some 600 grit sandpaper, and I'm knocking down anything that I feel. If there's a chunk or anything might have landed on the surface right here, I actually had a fisheye. I don't even know if you could see it. And I just took my sandpaper, 600 grit, and just kind of rub that out just a little bit. I've got my tack cloth. We'll go through, we'll blow this thing off and tack it really good. And if there's anything on here, look, I had another little spot there that I, see that? Sanded that out. And if there's anything on it anywhere, I'm gonna sand it out and then tack it off really good. Clear coat time. So this is a two-part. This is the actual clear coat, and then this is the hardener here. We're going to go 4 parts clear, 1 part hardener. All we got to do is turn our mixing bowl over here to 4 to 1. You guys can see that. I'm going to do enough to do this whole thing. So here it goes. We'll go up to the number 2. How about that? I believe that'll be enough. There we are, number 2. Okay, so you see how we have filled this up to the number 2. Well, over in the next column, still under the 4 to 1 ratio, we just need to go up to the second number 2 with the activator, the hardener, whatever you want to call it. Without this stuff will not dry. So there's that. Something I like to do, and you guys can play around with that if you want, is a little splash of reducer at the end. It doesn't call for that, but it does help it flow out of the gun and lay down real nice. Here is the splash of reducer, just a little capful of reducer, just to kind of help it flow out of the gun like I mentioned. Give this a thorough stirring, and in the gun it'll go. But we'll strain it just like we did the paint and the sealer. Just pour it through our free strainer that they give us down at the old paint store. Pretty nice of them, huh? And then we'll stir it up with our free paint stick that they also gave us down at the paint store. Hopefully you guys can understand me with my mask on. Basically what I want to do here is I want to turn my pressure up to around 25 to 30 pounds. Open this one right here. Open that one all the way up. That's going to adjust our fan, give us a nice wide spray pattern. Alright, so here we are. It's set for a few hours and looks pretty dang good if I do say so myself. Alright, I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna be honest. Alright. These things always look good on camera, right? Everybody looks like an expert painter on camera. I'm gonna zoom in. You see that there? Oh, that's the stuff that they don't show you on the other channels. That's right, man. We got a little bit of it's more of a paint sag than a run. A run would have been like, you know what I mean? So this won't be so bad. We'll sand that down with a little block and probably maybe some 1500 grit sandpaper. Work it on up to 2000 and it'll buff out just fine. That is really the only thing that I've seen on it. I've been trying to look it over best I can. The lighting kind of sucks. I think we'll have better luck with it once we get it outside. But near as I could tell, I think we got it, man. I think we did a good job on it. And we did the hood over here, you can see. Went ahead and clear coated it. I think it looks really, really nice. The good thing about having clear coat on the underside of the hood is that the nastiness will wash right off of it, versus if it was more, flat or satin, it gets dirty and it kind of stays that way. There's the old filler door there. We'll get that on so that we don't lose track of it. Go ahead and just bolt it back on and get it over with. For now, we're going to get a little bit creative. It's going to go back up on the chain hoist, and we're going to drop it down on a little trailer, just a little miniature trailer that I use for around the house. I usually pull it around with my riding lawnmower. I think this will set on there just fine, and we'll roll it out, get it out of the way. I would put it on the truck, but you see all that damage that we got to fix? I think if I were to put the bed on, it would just be in the way, and it would be in danger of being smacked with a hammer or buzzed with a grinder or something else. The same thing on the hood over here. I would hang the hood, but we got to fix this fender. So what I would like to do is get this fender close, and then we'll hang the hood, and we'll use it as a guide to see how far up this needs to go. Since this is all damaged here, we can't trust it. So we need the good panel on there, and then we'll know exactly how far to bend this up and all of that. So we'll go ahead and start that, get it headed in the right direction, get past the beating and banging on it with a hammer stage, then we'll hang our new panel on. Before we get too carried away hoisting it on the trailers, I thought maybe we would do my favorite part of all, and that is get it all unwrapped. I love unwrapping these things. We used the old cheap plastic on this one, and I do not recommend that. When you use the cheap plastic, this is what happens. It starts to flake off. Look at all that. And what will happen is, I'm sure most of you know, you'll be coming through here and you're painting, and then you'll blow all of that right into your finish. And well, we got lucky. We didn't have to deal with that. It didn't get to that extreme, but it sure could have. Use 3M plastic. Don't use this cheap Walmart stuff. Ain't worth it. You can see here, boy, it's really bad. Look at all that. All that stuff just flakes off of there. You see that? Another issue that you can have is when you're dealing with fresh clear. Remember, we only sprayed this, a few hours ago. That will actually stick to that fresh clear, and you'll have to go back and try to buff it off. It's no fun. So, like I said, we've got enough work going on. We don't need to add extra to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be super careful and let that stuff just kind of fall to the ground. Make sure that when we get over here to the edge, that we don't allow it to get too carried away to where it's actually blowing out onto our freshly painted surface. You see there where it's trying to get on there. I'm not too worried about inside of here, but I sure wouldn't want it to get on the outside of the bed. How's it going over here?
Pretty good.
I figure it won't be so bad on the inside, as long as we don't let it blow out over and land on top of our fenders. That would not be cool. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take a chance on that truck. I think we are going to get the good plastic.
Yeah, I would.
Nice. Doing a fine job. All right. Yeah, like we said before, we might have mentioned it, I think, is that this is getting a spray-in bed liner, and that bed liner actually comes up and over this edge. We only painted it because it had that damage. So here we are with the, I believe this is going to be the funnest part of the whole job. This sheet metal has literally kind of started to fold itself over right here. That's how far bent it is. You can see how bad it is up here. That's pretty bad. Normally, like in the body shop, we would cut that out and replace it, but we're going to fix this one because, well, we're not parts changers. We're going to actually beat on it and get it straightened out, make it look good. Now, before we could do any welding, because we'll probably have to weld some tabs on here to pull, I'm not going to weld anything without pulling headliner and this, especially this piece. This has got to go. I don't know if we're going to need to pull the whole headliner down, but we're going to at least get it to where we can drop this edge. I might have pointed this out earlier. We do have some damage up here in the front, right up here at the top. I don't even know if y'all can see it on camera, but this entire area here is pushed down. Whatever hit this light and broke it, pushed the whole roof down. Now, we could probably take this light out of here. Obviously, there's a hole underneath it. We could get in there and do some pulling. We'll try that first. If that doesn't work, we will have to go ahead and drop the entire headliner and try to push it up from the bottom. Now, my experience tells me that usually there's going to be some kind of an inside brace going through there. Same thing back here on the corner. Yeah, most likely this will have an inner brace inside of there, and you won't really be able to access it from the back side to try to get in there and beat any of this out. So the odds of being able to do it that way are slim. But we still need to remove these inside trim panels because, like I said, we will have to do some welding, definitely, and we can't weld with any of this stuff in there. You'll mess around and set a fire. Ask me how I know. Hey man, every good body man has set a vehicle on fire at some point in their career. I sure did. It was a Lincoln Navigator, brand spanking new. I think we're gonna start with pulling the back seat out of the way so that we could get this trim panel off.
Hold on. Hold on.
It's kind of awkward, huh? Okay. This ought to pop off of here now. Matthew's already got the screws out of it. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, you see what I mean? Whoa. You see what I mean about inner structure? Like there's nothing. There's no way to get in here and beat any of that out from the inside. But we have everything out of harm's way at this point, so we ain't got to worry about fires. And you know, if there was anything like some foam insulation, which they're notorious for putting that in these cavities, we will be able to get in here with an air hose or a squirt bottle or whatever and actually put the fire out. When you have all your trim panels in the way, you're very limited on being able to actually put a fire out. So do the extra work and pull the trim panels out is all I'm trying to say. He's over here trying his damnedest to get to the back side of this. You can see he's found his way in there a little bit. Yeah, once we relieve the pressure a little bit, we'll start to get our door gap back.
Yeah. We
don't even have a door gap at this point. If I could do this without smashing my hand. So yeah, we actually are moving that metal around, so not too bad. I'll keep working on it. Check that out, we got the gap back already. It actually opens and shuts like it's supposed to. Remember, that was completely closed. Actually, this was kind of going underneath the door, actually. It was so bad. Okay, so you know things are getting serious when we have to break the welder out. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Look at all those studs poking out there. I'm gonna grab onto those with my puller. I've got a slide hammer with a pair of vice grips welded onto the end of it, and we'll clamp that onto each one of these, and we'll pull all these low spots out. You can see where I stuck it in the deepest spots. And the body line that runs down through here, there's two of them, one here and then one here, that are going to run all the way down through here. So we're going to pull all that back up pretty easy. Yeah, you see my vice grips here? Welded onto the end of a slide hammer. You could buy these already made. They're not very expensive at all. We're just gonna clamp right onto these studs. Go through here and start pulling this stuff out. You just want to do a little bit on each one. Don't try to pull the whole dent out all at once. You just want to kind of work it out slowly. I'm going to go up and down this body line. Just kind of ease it out little by little. Get in this deeper dent here, see what happens. Oh, there. Now we're going. Oh, let me tighten up my clamp. Tighten up my grips here. Come over here to this one. Well, we did a good job on the welding. None of the tabs have come loose yet. You'll know. They'll pop right off of here. Didn't weld it on good. Now I'm basically going to start the whole process over again, and I'm just going to keep doing that till we get this to an acceptable range. I don't want to just go filling it full of filler. I want to get all this as close as I can. See here where we kind of burnt through, no worries, we'll go back and weld those shut. It happens. The sheet metal's thin, it ain't like that old stuff. Them older cars, man, you could weld on them. These ones here, you gotta be really careful. So after you're done making your pulls, you could cut those studs off with a pair of wire cutters, or you can use a die grinder, whatever you want. Just as long as you get them off of there and grind them back down flush. Just gonna put it right down in there. Look how lucky we are that that just fit right down in there. And I'm just gonna kind of pop up on this to see if maybe some of that might pop out. Who knows? There is an inner structure that runs right, I mean, it's huge, runs right through here. So there's no way to get from the back side, because that would have been great. Didn't get that lucky on this one. There, you see that? That's what I was hoping for. A little bit chilly out this morning. Matthew's going to warm up the surface, get the metal temperature a little warmer before we put the filler on, and that will help the filler harden up quick versus having to sit and wait on it for half an hour. We ain't messing around, we're trying to get this thing done. So this will help, I mean, a couple of minutes of that will save you a half hour. So while he's doing that, I got me some filler on the board here. You can see that's the hardener there. It comes in the little squeeze tube. For all you that don't know, that little bit will get that going. No problem at all. Any more than that, we might end up in trouble. And what will happen is the filler will harden up before you get it all on the vehicle. And if you're like me, you don't want to waste filler. You don't want to waste any of these materials. They are way too expensive to be thrown in the trash. So get your mixing ratio right. What do you mean? Well, if it's hot outside, you're going to want to use less of this the hotter it is outside. I mentioned a minute ago, it's a little chilly out here, so I could get away with using just a little bit more than usual. Another thing that can affect this is humidity. If it's high humidity and high heat, a little bit of this will go a long way. When you're mixing this, you see what I'm doing here? I'm just kind of smearing it around the board, trying to wipe all of it off of my spreader, as much of it as I can. That way it all ends up in the mix. We're going to go until all of that blue hardener is completely mixed up throughout this entire little batch. In other words, we don't want to see any streaks of blue or any of that. You can see here I've actually got time more than enough time because I didn't use a whole lot of hardeners, so it gives me a little more work time. Another thing, don't come in and stir it. You don't want to do that. You will stir in air, which will cause pinholes. You don't want that. So there we go. I would say that that is thoroughly mixed. What do y'all think? You know what? He's got that nice and warm. This ought to go well. No problem at all. I did go through and tape my holes shut right here so that the filler wouldn't fall through the hole and land on my headliner. Not that it really that big of a deal, being that it is the top side of the headline and you wouldn't see it. As soon as we peel the tape off, the filler will go with it, so it's not a big deal. It'll come right off of there. This stuff is spreading real nice. Since we got the surface nice and warm, it just glides right on there, no problem. Nice and smooth. And you're going to want to work this back and forth a couple good times. That helps force the air out and prevents the air bubbles. This is a rather easy, kind of a DIY friendly area, being that it's flat and there are no body lines. That's part of the reason I wanted to take you guys through this spot, because sometimes those other areas, like the cab corner we did over there, they could be a little bit intimidating when you start throwing in body lines. Believe me, I know. I remember starting at a body shop, I had no idea how to do filler work. I just was not good at it at first. And body lines scared the crap out of me. But you know what? It's all good now. We got it. So I'm going to call that good, and I'm going to show you another trick to working your filler here in just a minute. Matthew's going to go ahead and pull this tape off to expose our holes again. There we go. Do that before the mud completely hardens, and it'll just come right off of there. All right, y'all. I want to show you my favorite tool in the whole body shop, and that is my little cheese grater. This thing works awesome. It gives you a head start on working your filler, because boy, it just chews it up quick. It does no sandpaper involved, no electric tools, no air tools, no nothing, man. This thing, boy, look at it. It just gets it. Look at all that. It just removes it so quick. This will get you into the ballpark, and then you'll switch over to your actual sandpaper and a board, air file, DA, whatever you're going to use. But boy, this really does chew down the materials with the quickness. I mean, you see how fast it goes. Look at all that. Save some time and save some materials. Now we'll use this till we just barely start to feather out, just barely. And then I'll actually finish the feathering out, which is just the blending of it into the surrounding area. I'll finish that out with the actual sandpaper, because it'll create a nice feather where this won't create a feather. No, it'll just gouge up the surrounding area, and you don't really want that. So I just get it to where it's close, and then we'll switch over. So it's worth mentioning, you're going to want to do this with the mud not completely hardened up. I've never really understood why people wipe their filler on and then let it sit until it turns to concrete, basically, and then start trying to sand it. You're going to use a lot more sandpaper doing that, and it's going to take forever. It's hard to get your body lines all shaped out just right, things like that, when you're working concrete. So this is just the way I've always done it. You do it however you want to, but you can see how easy it is to work if you don't let it harden completely up. So anyway, do it how you want. This is how I do it. It's so much faster and easier. This is what we end up with after we're done with the cheese grater. Now we're going to switch over to a board with some, I believe this is 36 grit. You see how I took it to where it's just barely starting to kind of feather out around the edges. We go in a cross hatch pattern. And we're going to go this way, and then we're going to go this way. Get everything to feather out around the edges nice, and you'll be good to go. All right, so we're nice and straight now. We're just going to go around the area, around the repair area with some 80 grit on a palm sander, and that's just to get it all, you know, some of these 36 grit scratches go out past the repair area. So I just want to knock those down a little bit, and then we're going to glaze out over the whole thing. So here's our glaze. We've got some dolphin glaze. Works really good. I've been using this stuff for years. It sands out really nicely. It's the same thing as the filler. The only difference is it's really thin, and I'm only using this to fill in those 36 grit scratches. That paper is very aggressive, and we have to fill those scratches back up. So that's all this is for. We don't actually use this to do body work unless it's something very minor, like a slight ding or something like that. We like to use the actual filler for the body work. And I like to have my shape and everything already dialed in before I ever get to this stage. Like I said, I'm only using this to fill in those aggressive 36 grit scratches. That's it. We've already got our shape. We're nice and straight. We ain't got no waves. We've done feathered everything back. We are looking good. Those scratches are just too aggressive to prime in, so you wouldn't want to depend on your primer for that. So same thing as before, no stirring. We're just mixing it thoroughly, making sure that there is no hardener streaks. This stuff goes on super thin, almost to the point you could see through it. We're only filling the scratches. I can't stress that enough. We've already got our shape. The 36 grit is really good for getting your shape, making sure everything is nice and flat. If you're doing body lines, it's a really good time to get your body lines and everything all dialed in before you get to this stage, because we're going to be working this with finer grits of sandpaper. You see, you don't want to be trying to make your body lines and all of that with those finer grits. It's a bit more difficult, a lot more time consuming, and chances are you won't get it straight. So this is the better way to go, I think. I mean, that's just my opinion. This is how we always did it in the shop, in the body shop. And that was a very fast-paced environment. Just get that off the edge there. Remember, this windshield's coming out, so we're not too worried about it. Same as with the filler. You're going to want to go back and forth, work out those air bubbles. If you do end up with air bubbles, pinholes, and what have you, not the end of the world. We actually have something for that. So if we do end up with any, we'll wipe some other stuff on there that's even thinner than this. We'll show you that in a little bit. Hopefully we won't even have to show you that. We like to get this on here without the pinholes. Okay, so it's been a few minutes since I've checked in. I'll let you guys know where we're at now. So there's our spot all finished up and ready for primer. After we did the 80 grit, I switched over to 150 grit. Finished the whole thing out with that, got it all nice and smooth. And then I took 320 grit on my palm sander there, and I just went around the media area there just to kind of smooth up in case there was any kind of rough scratches left behind. Got it nice and smooth all the way around the repair area. Now, as for the rest of that roof panel, there's no damage on it, no body work or anything like that. Only thing that needs is just Scotch-Brite. So I ran over that whole area with red Scotch-Brite, got it all ready to go. All you want to do there is just knock the shine off. So at this point, we're going to wrap this thing up and shoot some primer up here. That's the next step. I wanted to show you guys how thick this primer is. It's really easy to sand and everything. It's really good stuff. This isn't sponsored content or anything. I just wanted to show y'all what we're using. This stuff here, good stuff. Very high build and sands like powder, really nice. And I'm not joking you. This stuff is every bit as thick as the glaze that we were just using a minute ago. So this will definitely fill up some imperfections, sanding scratches. It'll take out waves, all that stuff, as long as you block it out properly. Hey, I wanted to show you guys a little trick I picked up over the years, and it works surprisingly well, and maybe you could use it. So on a big job like this, I like to go ahead and shoot the roof and just have it done and over with. You can see there, it is done. I did it when we did the bed. So that way, when it comes time to paint the rest of the truck, I don't have to crawl all over this thing and take chances of messing up the sides, either getting my belly caught up on the wet paint, trying to lean over to do the roof, or just stirring up more dirt with your air hoses and things like that. So anyway, that roof is done. And the problem is I still had other body work to do to the rest of the truck. You can see here, I've already primed it in, but the way we did it is we did it with a paint roller. You see this little skinny little roller here? Do you guys know you can actually roll your primer on? Yes, you can. Don't let nobody tell you that you can't. The benefit of doing this is that no overspray. Absolutely zero overspray. So I didn't have to sit and try to go back and mask all of that stuff off and all of that. And being that it was fresh, I wouldn't have wanted to put plastic on top of it anyway, right? Yeah, you can see where we had to prime in that roof rail, and that is obviously right next to that freshly painted roof. So I didn't want to have to sit and try to risk masking that and everything. So this worked out great. So I've got some 220 on a block, and that's what we're going to start with, just to kind of break down some of that texture, that orange peel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stay away from out here and just stay on the primer itself. And what we'll do is when this starts to, when the peel starts to go away and it starts to get nice and smooth, which it'll do just about instantly, it won't take but a couple of passes. Then we'll break out the 320, and at that point, we will be able to go out over the edges. It won't matter. I don't want 220 scratches in the surrounding area. I only want it on the primer itself because I want to finish this entire area out with 320. At that point, we will be able to seal it and then shoot the actual paint on top of that. So this is breaking down rather nice. This primer is great. I might have mentioned before that they're not sponsoring us or anything like that, so nobody's paying me to say that. But I do like to show you guys the materials that we use, if it's good. This stuff seems to be very good. It sands so easy. It's like powder. It's so great. It's not clogging up look at this. It is not clogging my paper at all. Really good stuff. I hate it when you're trying to block primer and it sticks little dingleberries all over the paper. This just doesn't have, I just don't have a problem with that on this. So just like that, you saw how I did that in real time for y'all to show y'all just how quick that you will break down this primer and make it nice and smooth, even though we rolled it on with a roller. It's nice, it's thick, it's gonna fill up all of our scratches from the heavier grit sandpaper that we did the body work in. We finished our body work out to 120, and then we start priming. So the primer fills all that up rather nice, and then we will work the primer down to 320, and we will have a sealable, paintable surface at that point. So there it is. It's smooth now. So yeah, nice and smooth. I'll finish up the area here in just a minute, but I just wanted to show y'all how quickly that breaks down. And at this point, I will switch over to the 320, go over the whole thing again, and come out over the edges and get us a nice feather. We'll be good to go after that. By this point, we've already got this blocked out straight before I even switched over to the 320. The only thing we're doing really with the 320 is getting the 220 scratches out and getting our feather. Weird, you keep talking about a feather. What the hell are you talking about? For those of you who don't know, we feathered the edges. You see how it starts to kind of fade into it? You see, obviously here we have an edge, but here it just kind of gradually fades right into it. That's your feather. You see over here, it's starting to kind of fade into that way, as opposed to what all of this looks like. Hard to believe this looked like this 5 minutes ago. That's all I've got into this so far. 5 minutes. I'm gonna get called out for rubbing my hands on this. Really, you're not supposed to do that, but no worries. We cleaned the surface with acetone before we ever go on to the next stage, so it's not really that big of a deal. Anyway, that's it, man. That's how you block sand your primer. I'm gonna drop down and do this area now. Oh, and it's also worth mentioning that you can use longer blocks. I'm short blocking this because it's white. White is the most forgiving color. It'll be fine, not to worry. But you can get carried away and you can use blocks this long. Hell, you can use blocks this long. They've even got blocks this long. If you want to get carried away when you're going down the side of one of these things, it will get them super straight. And you want to do something like that if you're using darker colors, things like that, because those colors show everything and you want to get that little ripply look out of the sides of it. That would be the way to go. So we're just about finished with the block sanding on this spot here, and I just wanted to show you guys something. Notice that I haven't even touched this body line yet. Haven't touched it at all. Leave your body lines till last. Otherwise, you'll burn through them that fast. We don't want that. So hey, I wanted to show y'all a little trick since we're blocking this out and we're wanting to make it look all nice and straight. This is something you might could use in case you don't already know. You know what? If you take a clean rag, a clean paper towel, a clean glove, whatever, and you go on here and you rub this back and forth, you will actually feel every little imperfection if there are any. I don't know why it is, but when you use your bare hand, you would think using your naked hand, you would feel everything without a doubt, right? Well, that is just simply not the case. For some reason, something to do with science or something, I don't know. It actually works better having something between your bare hand and the surface, a clean rag, a glove, whatever. I promise you, if you try this, you will feel things that you wouldn't have felt with your bare hands. So you guys try that out. See if it works for you. All right, something else that's worth mentioning is you don't want to feel your body work with your fingertips. You know, when you're in here, really? When you're in here trying to feel with your fingertips, it's just not going to work out for you. Use the palm of your hand. Get your palm of your hand on there and rub across there and you will feel a lot more. Using the rag trick, I actually noticed right here, there's a spot that isn't feathered out good at all. I could feel the edge of that, not going to work. Now the funny part is when I was feeling that with my bare hand, I didn't feel that at all. When I put the rag in between my hand and the surface, it instantly revealed itself. So just needed a little more feathering, and I think that'll get it. We got it now. Alrighty, so we got all of our priming, blocking, sanding, everything is done. All the prep work is completely done. We've even got it masked off, wiped down with cleaner. We are ready to spray some sealer at this point. You might kind of notice we went around the edges with the paper, and that's because your sealer will hit this plastic and just blow off when you come back to do your next coat, and it'll flake off right into your surface. You definitely don't want that. So everywhere where there's going to be sealer, we've got paper over the plastic. That ought to help us out, I do believe. Just got our sticky tack cloth out. Gonna go through here and just tack all of this off. And I wanted to show you guys that it's good to go through and actually tack off the surrounding paper, believe it or not. Especially areas up here like your windows, you know. We'll come through here and actually wipe all of this off. Just lightly drag our tack rag around all this plastic and all of that. Just a little added insurance, because I mean, think about it. You got, you know, common sense. If there's dust out here, why wouldn't there be some in here as well? Especially on the plastic areas, static electricity and what have you. Dust likes to stick to all that. So we'll go ahead and tack all of that off along with our surface to be painted. We're going to put one coat of sealer on this as soon as I'm done tacking this off. You see here, I'm going to go right in there, even though we're not too concerned with color in there, being that that's the handle area. We still want to make sure we tack all of that off. So anyway, one coat of sealer only on the primed areas where we did bodywork. That's the only areas that we're going to actually need sealer. All of the rest of this, in case I failed to mention it earlier, all of that got knocked down with like 600 grit and Scotch-Brite. So there's no need to seal those areas. So the sealer is dry. All we went for on the sealer is just coverage. So you really only need like one coat of it. At this point, we went through and we tacked all of it back off again. So, because when you spray your sealer only on the primered areas, you get a little overspray out at the end, and you want to go back and you want to hit all of that with a tack cloth, or you'll end up with, it'll come out looking like you have trash in your paint when it's just overspray. So now that that's done, we could go hit it with our base coat. We're only going to need maybe a couple of coats of this, and then we'll let it dry just the same and hit it with clear coat. I like to go for my edges first, make sure I get good coverage. I want you to notice that when I come to my gaps, I don't stop. I go past the gaps each time. I see a lot of guys stopping at the gaps. You don't want to do that. You'll build up those edges. It's not a good look. So always go past your gaps. You can walk the whole side of this truck if you want. If we were doing some heavy metallics or candies, I would literally go down the whole side of this truck with each pass. With this being white, I don't really have to do that. I'm gonna start up here, stand on my brick. Once you guys look back here, this is kind of difficult, but you got to make sure you come in and you spray that inside edge where it goes along that windshield, or you'll unmask this thing and you won't have no paint back there. And that's not a good look. We do about a 50% overlap. If you were doing some candies, you might would want to go 75%. But with this, 50% should be fine. You might be asking, why am I even painting all of this? Doesn't really look like anything's wrong with it. We probably could have just blended some of these panels and been done with it. This is a tornado truck, so it's got little spots all over it that you probably can't see with the camera. So rather than do a bunch of blends and run the risk of ending up with rock chips here and there that didn't get covered with color, we're just going to do the whole thing. It just seems like a way better way to go. So here we are with 2 full coats of base coat on here. At this point, we are fully covered. There's no sealer or anything poking through. Everything looks fine. You see there's our bodywork. Looking pretty nice, looking pretty nice. So, man, I'll tell you what, it does look nice to have this all one color again. without all the spots and everything on it, and of course, you know, the damage. So here, this part here is where the magic happens. We are going to hit this up with a couple of good coats of clear coat, and I'll show you how I do that. All right, you notice that I sprayed that first coat really, really lightly, just kind of misted it on there, really. That is going to be your tack coat. That's going to give the next coat something sticky to hold on to so it don't run off into the floor. Now, if I was in a paint booth back in my body shop days, I would just hammer it with clear right from the start, put probably 2 really good wet coats on it and call it a day. But it was nice and warm in there and downright hot, really. Out here, we're in the barn. It's kind of cold. I think we're pushing 50 degrees barely. I'm going to give it something to hold on to. I don't want that to run down in the floor being that it's so cold out here, and it will. So we've got the second coat on there. Actually, to me, it's the first real coat. That first coat was just barely, just a little mist coat, just to make it nice and sticky. The second one is a medium coat, and then the third one, I'm going to put it on, and I won't stop until I got the peel just right, the orange peel, the texture. These things come from the factory with just a slight little orange peel to them. They're not perfectly smooth, and I want it to look factory. So this will look just like that when we're done. Okay, so I let it dry overnight, and you know what? I'm pretty pleased with the results. I'm really pleased with the way our cab corner turned out. You guys remember how beat in this thing was? It was really bad, so that turned out great. And I might have mentioned this before, but unwrapping is one of my favorite things. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that, get all of this plastic and paper and everything out of the way, so that we can start the reassembly phase. We've got so much to put back together on this, you guys. I mean, a whole day of just putting it back together. All right, y'all, we got it all done, buffed out, ready to go home, and it's turned out pretty dang nice. Pardon the wind noise. We had a front come through, so kind of made it all cloudy and cold, but there it is. I want to put together a nice color sanding video for you guys, but this truck being white, you just can't see it on camera, so we'll have to do that on a different one. I do believe we're going to have something red show up before too long, and we'll do it on that one. But there you go, man. This thing turned out really nice. I don't know if you guys can see, very smooth. The orange peel is really nice on this, so looks pretty good, y'all. Not bad for an old work truck. Well, all right, so we're on to the next one. Here we go.